Hey, it's Mika. And hey, you. Yeah, you. Are you under the age of 18? You should stop watching this. This could be good. By Kasiara. Read by Mika. Draco stretches and winces a little at the sound his back makes in response. He should stretch more, or maybe stop aging. Both options are probably equally likely, since Draco clearly recalls having the thought to stretch more at least 7 times this week alone. But it's easy to forget to move his shoulders back, or roll his head when staring at a computer and watching the letters appear as he types in the detail of the day's sessions on his keyboard. And it's even harder to remember when he's with a client, although posture and breathing can be important in speech therapy, so he should probably be conscious about being a better role model. The idea of being any kind of role model still makes him want to roll his eyes at himself. But he summons the small remainder of his rainbow post-its and scribbles, "Remember to stretch," on one, and "posture," on another, before sticking them both to the sides of his computer screen. Catching sight of the small clock on the computer screen, he realizes he'll have to leave now if he doesn't want to miss his next appointment, so he grabs the keys off his desk and locks the door on his way out of the office. One of the things Draco really enjoys about his job is when he gets to drive. The meditation of sitting in a car, watching the British countryside fly by, does a lot of good for his stress levels. He's smiling as he drives home, confident that he's just had his last appointment with the little Muggle girl he's been working with for almost 2 years now. Her phonological understanding has improved immensely. It's always emotional, letting a client go. On the one hand, Draco is always sad that he won't see them again, and on the other, his chest swells with the knowledge that he's managed to do something for someone that improves their quality of life. He wipes a stray tear off his cheek and laughs a little at himself. He used to laugh at his mother for her crying, especially the happy, proud tears, but here he is, doing the exact same thing himself. He's reaching out to turn on the radio when he sees it. A small shape in the middle of the road. He slams the brakes, but he already can tell he won't be able to stop in time. His body moves faster than his brain, turning the wheel sharply to swerve away from the moving shape. The car shakes uncomfortably as it leaves the road, and he winces at the sound it makes as a tree branch scrapes along the side. When he finally comes to a stop, he's relieved to find he's not hurt, and his car is making the same comforting sound it always does. Draco lets out a shaky breath and looks out his window at the shape in the road. It's a dog. Draco thinks it might be a golden retriever, but its fur is too dirty to tell properly from a distance. More importantly, the dog seems to be shaking. The idea that someone must have hit it and driven off fills Draco with a rage so strong it burns away at the shakiness in his limbs from the almost crash. He hits the emergency lights on his car and gets out, only pausing to summon a blanket from the back before slowly approaching the dog. It blinks at him, but doesn't make any attempt to move away, and when he gets close, Draco clearly sees why. Its leg is twisted the wrong way, and it's breathing shallowly, clearly in a lot of pain. He has to move it, but he doesn't know how to do that without hurting the dog. Can he stun it? It's not harmful to people, but he doesn't know about dogs and he doesn't want to risk it. "Hey, little one," he says cautiously. laying the blanket over the dog and wincing when it makes a noise of pain. "I'm so sorry," he says, casting a glance around himself before pulling out his wand and casting a spell to make the dog feather light. He doesn't want to risk making it panic by levitating it, but he wants to make being lifted as painless as possible. The dog doesn't resist when he picks it up, only whines in a way that makes Draco ache when he carries it back to his car. Getting back in the front seat of the car, Draco reaches for his phone and dials Blaze, the only one of his friends who owns both a mobile phone and a pet. "Blaze, someone's hit a dog. What's the address for your vet?" "I can text you the address, but you might not want..." Blaze starts. "He's in London, right?" Draco asks. "Yes, but Draco... just text me." He's not far out from London, but it's far enough that he decides to activate the invisibility shield and put the car in flight mode. He's glad now that he decided to brave the Weasley shop to buy his car, instead of getting it at the Muggle dealership like he originally planned. If the car's ability to fly gets the dog to a vet faster, it would definitely be worth the shame he felt going to their shop after being on the wrong side of the war. Blaze texts him, and Draco adds the address to a charmed map in the car, taking off at full speed and ignoring the sound of more texts coming in. He arrives 5 minutes later and curses. He eyes the tightly packed cars along the road and considers vanishing one to make room for himself. Instead, he takes a deep, shaky breath through his nose and casts an extension charm between two of the cars parked along the street. Lowering the car slowly into the new spot, he takes another deep breath to calm himself. He checks the featherlight charm is still in place before he picks the dog, cradling it in his arms as he rushes to the door. He lifts one hand and knocks as hard as he can without jostling the dog. He sees the sign only a split second before the door opens. Harry Potter, veterinarian. And there he is, green eyes boring into Draco's. And then they're not in London anymore. He's in his room at the manor, packing his clothes into his suitcase and ignoring the way his mother's eyes try to drill into the back of his head. "I just don't understand why you have to move," his mother says, probably for the 5th time that morning. Draco stopped counting days ago. "Because I'm going to university," Draco says. "I just can't understand why it has to be a Muggle school." Draco sighs, accepting that he'll have to have this conversation one final time. "Because I want to do something good. Because they gave me another chance, and I can't just sit here waiting to feel like I earned it somehow. I can't just sit here still and hope for forgiveness." "Do you really think anything could make them forgive us?" his mother demands. "No," Draco admits. "But I don't think that's the point." "Then what is the point?" "The point is that I spent the first 17 years of my life trying to live up to who you and Father wanted me to be. And then I spent the next 2 sitting here, waiting for the world and myself to forgive me for that. The point is that I haven't made a single decision in my life based on what I want. And now you're deciding for yourself, and what you want is to go to a Muggle university." That's part of it, yes, Draco says. I'm not sure if he even really knows how to word the decision he's made. Have you ever experienced it? He asks, by way of explanation. Being thought of as less than human because of something you can't change about yourself. Because of something that used to be a warm, glowing secret in your chest until you realized how disgusting others found it. Have you ever been hated so intensely by so many people, strangers and friends and family, that you start to think maybe they've all got a point? His mother shook his head. That's what we did to Muggleborns, you know, and anyone we viewed as slightly different. I didn't truly understand how horrible it was until I experienced it. But now that I have, I can't just... Draco pauses, trying to find the words. I don't think there is forgiveness for something like that. I think forgiveness implies that it was somehow all right. And it wasn't. It isn't. But there is change. I don't want to be the kind of person that makes anyone feel the way I've been made to feel for being who I am. I won't ever get forgiveness, but I did get a second chance. I'm going to take it. What do you mean, Draco? How have you been made to feel? Why? Draco sighs. Of course, that's the part his mother would focus on. He supposes it's time, though, to let her know the full truth of why he's insisted on leaving. He allows himself a moment to meet his mother's warm, loving gaze for a last time, before he speaks. I'm gay, Mother. Her gaze cools instantly, expression changing rapidly between fear and disgust and grief. No, she says. No, you aren't. Draco manages a smile, but he imagines it only makes him look sadder. I am. I know what that means for us. And that's... I won't forgive you for it. But if you ever want a second chance, it's there. The scene around him blurs, and when it comes back into focus, Draco isn't Draco anymore. He's Harry. He's sitting at his desk, staring down at the letter in front of him, with something like a stone stuck in his stomach. It's a resignation letter, and he's spent hours agonizing over it. Not that the words itself matter much, but it feels like failure to quit. And yet, he can't imagine going back, day after day, for the rest of his life. The thought of going back tomorrow is too much. He thought he'd love it, being an aura. He thought he'd been helping people by putting evil people behind bars. Except, it turns out most of the people he's expected to round up and fine or jail aren't evil. Mostly, they're in trouble. And the truly shitty people either have the cash to pay their way out of trouble, or get up to things so terrible that Harry feels he'll never stop having nightmares about it. He'd like to blame his therapist. Say she told him to quit. Of course, she didn't. She just asked questions until he realized how very much he didn't want to do this job. Questions like, why do you work as an aura? Or, is being an aura the only way for you to do good? Or saying things like, you act like you're paying down a debt to the world, but I don't think you owe anything at all. So here he is. A resignation letter written, and trying to find the strength to send it. The thing is, he's never been good at quitting things. Starting something is easy, just like walking forward is easy. Quitting feels like stopping, like walking backwards. Merlin, he's always feared looking back because his baggage is always right there behind him, refusing to be outrun. Maybe if he does quit, he'll have to stop, and finally allow the memories of the cupboard beneath the stairs, and the family that didn't love him to catch up to him. But then again, maybe quitting one thing is the same as starting something else. He'll quit being an aura and start being something different. Someone who doesn't run from his past, who doesn't get stuck in it either. Someone who is happy. As he watches the owl fly away with the letter, the scene blurs. Draco is back in his body again, standing on the stairs in front of Harry's clinic. What the fuck, Malfoy? Harry demands. Draco is still reeling from the memories he just relived. He falls back a step, and the dog in his arm whines, forcing Draco's focus away from the monumental thing that has just happened and back to the problem at hand. He was hurt in the street, Draco says, nodding down at the dog. I think someone has hit him with a car. Potter shakes his head, and when he focuses back on the dog, the anger is melted off his face. All right, come on in, he says, opening the door fully and stepping aside so Draco can carry the dog in. There's a table just through here. Draco carefully sets the dog down on the table, and it lets out another pitiful whine. Potter casts a spell that makes it relax with a huff of its breath, and Draco feels himself relax a fraction as well. As Potter examines the dog, his eyes darken with rage again. He casts spells in quick succession, and Draco can't tell what any of them does, except for the one that returns the dog's fur to a soft golden color. It gives him time to try and process what's just happened, though he suspects a lifetime will be needed to fully comprehend how Harry sodding Potter is his supposed soulmate. He'd thought, when he'd realized his preference for men, that the slim chance of ever finding a magical soulmate had shrunk to non-existent. Except, he still remembers the story his mother would tell him sometimes, as she tucked him into bed. Of how soulmates who locked eyes for the first time would watch a glimpse of each other's souls. There are, of course, two fatal flaws to this theory. First, this isn't the first time he's locked eyes with Potter, not even by a long shot. Second, what on earth could possibly be the point of having a soulmate who hates you as much as Potter hates him? Draco's fairly sure if it hadn't been for the dog, he'd be standing outside, staring at the door Potter had shut in his face by now. Eventually, Potter stops casting spells, and looks up to meet Draco's eyes. Well, almost his eyes. Draco suspects he's actually looking at his left eyebrow. You can look me in the eyes, Potter. It's not going to happen again. Potter's eyes draw together in what can only be confusion. But he meets Draco's eyes. What do you... Actually, never mind. Are you all right? Am I all right? Draco repeats, staring incredulously at Potter, and then pointedly at the dog he's just spent the better half of past half an hour casting spells at. Yes, Potter says. The car looked... and you look... His gaze flicks down to what must be fairly obvious tear tracks down Draco's face. Yes, I'm fine. You don't look fine, Potter says. The infuriating git. Honestly, how dare he ignore what just happened and then tell Draco he doesn't look fine? Well, obviously I'm not fine overall, but I am physically fine, and that's what you were asking, isn't it? Draco asks. Then continues because apparently, no matter how much he works to grow, he'll never learn the simple skill of shutting the fuck up. Actually, I can't fathom why you would think to ask at all. You clearly don't want... Actually, no, I'm not doing this. Is the dog all right? Yeah, she'll be all right. Her owners won't be, if I ever find them, but she'll be all right after sleeping for a bit. Is it a girl? Draco asks, because it seems to be the safest topic. Yes, Potter says, and fuck him, he looks amused. How do you know? Draco demands, as if any of this even matters. Potter just snorts and points to the framed degree on the wall. Right, yes, obviously, well, that makes sense. Potter reaches up to make his messy hair impossibly messier, and bites his bottom lip between his teeth. Malfoy, what? Draco doesn't know why, but he doesn't think hearing the end of that question will do him any good. He doesn't want to hear the rejection spoken out loud. His feelings for Potter never extended beyond a confusing mess of dislike and attraction, and a desperate need for him to survive. Now, though, he knows they're magically destined to fit together better than any puzzle pieces could. He doesn't think he can stand being rejected before he's even had a chance. Why won't the owners be safe? He interrupts. Potter's eyes darken, and Draco can't help but delight in the fact that his emotions are still as easy to read as they were back in school, written plainly in the twist of his lips and the slant of his eyebrows. She's so skinny and dirty, and she doesn't have a chip or tracking spell, Potter says, speaking through clenched teeth. She's not out of vaccinations either, and she's just about that age where people realize they don't want a dog after all. Draco suddenly understands Potter's anger. They abandoned her. Yes, I think so, Potter says. Looks like she's been on her own for a few weeks, at least. Draco aches for the dog. It feels a little too close to home, being cast out by people who were supposed to love you. Remembering what he learned from Potter's memory, he suspects he gets it too. Is it all right to touch her? He asks, blinking tears from his eyes. Yeah, just carefully, yeah. Draco sets a hand down lightly on the dog's head, running his fingers through her soft fur. She's relaxed in her sleep. It's a relief to see her breathing deeply and out of pain. I'll take her, he says, lifting his head to stare at Potter with sudden determination. Malfoy, Potter starts. No, I know what you think of me, but surely you don't think I'd be the type to throw a dog back onto the streets, after I was the one to bring her to you. I'll take care of her. Come on then, Potter says, gesturing to a door Draco hadn't noticed. She'll be out for a few hours. Draco follows Potter through the door, and up a staircase, and is surprised to find himself in Potter's living room. Tea? Potter asks, and Draco nods out of habit before he can process the question. Luckily, his answer leads to a momentary absence of Potter, and he tries once more to gather his thoughts. Although he's not sure how to gather them when they're so all over the place. He'd never thought he and Potter could be a match, but he already feels intrigued by the idea. Like he understands him in a way he wasn't able to before. He wants to see where it could go, he realizes, but instantly shoots the idea down. Potter would never go for it. He's already pretending it didn't happen. Draco doesn't get much further than calming his breathing, before Potter's back with Draco's tea just the way he likes it. And he is at least gratified to know Potter was watching him in the Great Hall too. Potter sits on the sofa, facing the empty fireplace, and Draco chooses a chair closest to the door. How did you do that? Potter asks, fingers tight around his cup. Do what? Draco asks. The warmth of the cup is soothing in his hands, and he lets the sensation ground him. I learned occlumency, finally, during aura training. I thought... How did you break through? You didn't even use your wand. It wasn't legilimency, Draco says, blinking stupidly at Potter. That's what he thought? Then what? Potter asks, and he sounds curious. Draco can't help it. He lets himself hope. Because if Potter thought it was Draco doing it, then maybe he doesn't know magic has looked into their souls and deemed them compatible. Maybe he doesn't know they're supposed to be something. And if he doesn't know, then maybe when he does, he'll want to... But no, Draco can't let his hope reach that far. Because there's still a very real chance Potter still won't want anything to do with him. Have you heard about soul bonds? He asks, holding his breath while he waits for the answer. No? Potter says. Is that some kind of magical marriage thing? No, Draco says, casting his mind back to his favorite bedtime story. When soulmates lock eyes for the first time, their eyes become windows to their souls, and they truly see each other for what they are. Wait, what? Potter says, scratching his head. When two people who are destined to be together look into each other's eyes for the first time, they see a memory, Draco says, trying to make his mother's poetic story into something more tangible, while also trying to avoid saying flat out that they're soulmates, because, for whatever reason, he needs Potter to put the pieces together himself. They see a memory that's significant in making them who they are today. But the first time we met was Madame Malkin's, Potter says. And, we've looked in each other's eyes plenty of times after that. Draco shrugs. I don't know any more than you do, really. It's rare. I only heard of it in the format of a bedtime story. Maybe our magical cores had to settle, or our personalities. Or maybe the people we were then weren't a good fit. He trails off. But now we are, Potter asks. A good fit. You're telling me that weird memory shit means we're soulmates? Draco braces himself. He can deal with rejection. His whole life has been a class in dealing with rejection. I think so, yes. Oh, Potter says. Draco rubs his sweaty palms on his trousers. Merlin, maybe he should just go. That actually makes a lot of sense, Potter says. And Draco stares at him in shock. What? He asks. And his voice sounds wrong, shrill and vulnerable. Vaguely, he remembers a lesson he had at uni. The professor explaining how the voice can act as a barometer for your emotional state. Potter laughs, actually throws his head back and laughs like the madman he surely is. Potter, Draco demands. What does that mean? Just, Potter says, amusement still clear on his face. I've never been able to not notice you, have I? Never managed to feel indifferent or ignore you. My friends would always say I was obsessed, and I've always denied it, but I've had years in therapy, and I realized that the only reason I hated you so intensely was because I also really, really didn't. You didn't? Draco asks. Because that can't mean what he thinks it means, can it? Potter grins and stands up from the sofa, and Draco can't think beyond the fact that he's so grateful Potter is a Gryffindor. Draco isn't brave. He's never been brave. He's never made moves without being sure of the outcome, and though he's probably missed out because of it, he's also managed to minimize humiliation, or outright rejection. But Potter has never been like that. Draco imagines he's never checked the temperature of the water before jumping in. He isn't afraid of failure. Or if he is, he's more afraid of never having tried. You know what's even more infuriating than having your nose stepped on by a complete git? Potter says, grinning at Draco and reaching out to take his hands. No, Draco says. He has no idea where this is going, but he lets Potter wrap his sure hands around his own and allows himself to be pulled to his feet. Waking up at night, humping a pillow with the git's face scorched into your retinas. Oh, Draco says, eyes falling to Potter's lips. They look soft, surrounded by only the slightest stubble. Yeah, Potter says. That was really fucking annoying. And then he's leaning in, hands moving up Draco's arms and pulling him closer until their lips meet. And Draco thinks distantly that he should really be too shocked to respond. But instead, a soft sound escapes him the second their lips meet, and he's lost to it. Potter's arms are warm and firm around him, leaving trails of heat on Draco's skin wherever they move. Potter's hands move of their own accord, clutching at Potter's hips and then moving up his back into his hair. Well then, his hair is softer than Draco ever imagined. He wraps his fingers around it and tugs gently, tilting his head ever so slightly back and deepening the kiss. When they break apart, they're both gasping, and Potter smiles sheepishly. Was that okay? Seriously, Draco demands, torn between sitting down again in pure surprise and tackling Potter onto the sofa. He compromises by remaining exactly where he is. That's it? You go from thinking we're nothing but former enemies to knowing we're soulmates in 5 minutes and then just, roll with it? Harry shrugs, because of course he does. So did you. Well, yes, of course I did, Draco says. You've always been attractive as fuck, and somehow knowing I'm destined to fall desperate in love with you if we keep, talking makes it feel a little bit like we already are, Potter suggests, when Draco breaks off. Well, yes, but I knew finding a soulmate was a possibility. I used to dream about it as a kid, like Panthy dreamed of a knight in shining armor. You literally didn't know it was a possibility until just now. I've had a lot of things prophesized or decided for me, Potter says, smiling when he sees Draco's expression of disbelief. You know, I had to kill Voldemort or die trying. I had to be the chosen one, and then everyone thought I had to be an aura. Potter goes to sit on the sofa, waving for Draco to follow, and Draco does, worried that he's going to say he doesn't want his love life prophesized after all. I know, Draco says. I assumed that would make you rage against this. Potter laughs. I suppose it could have, but I don't know. I think I'm owed a good prophecy. And it's not like it's forcibly bound us together, right? It doesn't feel like that. Draco shakes his head, and Potter continues. It feels like, I don't know, like it's pointing out something that's already there, or the potential for it. And I guess I'd like to see where it goes. If you're, interested. He suddenly looks nervous, and Draco can't hold back his laugh. You idiot, Draco says fondly. I wouldn't have kissed you back if I didn't want to see where it could go. So, Potter says, dragging the word out. You wouldn't mind if I did it again? No, Draco says. I wouldn't mind it at all, actually. And it's crazy because when Potter does kiss him, it feels like Draco has been waiting for years. Like he's opened the door to feelings that have been growing inside him since the first time he spoke with Potter. It doesn't feel like starting something new, but like they're continuing something old, picking up where they left off in another life. Potter holds questioning fingers over the buttons on Draco's shirt, and he answers by tugging at Harry's t-shirt. He wants skin-on-skin contact too. Wants to skip all the steps of awkward coffee dates and small talk and jump straight to having everything all at once. It should be scary, how much he wants to just jump in without following any of the rules. But he can't fight the comforting feeling that he's coming home. And he doesn't think he wants to fight it. Like Potter said, they wrote a good prophecy. They've worked for this. Worked for being people who are capable of happiness and good for each other. Fuck, Potter says, breaking away from the kiss and breathing heavily. It should be scary how fast I'm feeling so much, but it just isn't. Yes, Draco says. I'm usually a fan of moving slowly, analyzing and overthinking every step I make at least 3 times before making it. But this is just... I never would have anticipated it when I woke up this morning, but now it just seems inevitable. I've decided I'm good with rolling with it, Potter says. We should definitely do the whole talking thing, The whole tell me about yourself bit, but I wouldn't mind messing with the order and the speed of things a bit. Me neither, Draco says, tugging a little at the shirt he's still clutching. So you've seen my clinic and my living room. How would you feel about seeing my bedroom? Draco laughs. Is it Gryffindor red? Though I'm not sure your answer will affect mine, which is scary enough in itself. Potter laughs too, taking Draco's hand in his and leading him further into the flat. It's green, actually. Helps me sleep. Not Slytherin green, though. Sorry to disappoint. As a thought. Draco grins, already imagining bringing his old school scarf over one day, and having Potter wear it while he sucks him off. Potter's room is a soothing shade of sage, but Draco only has a second to take it in before Potter is kissing him again. Draco reaches between them to unbutton his shirt, tilting his head back when Potter's lips move down his neck. Potter kisses and licks lower with every button Draco undoes, making Draco's fingers fumble more with each button. "You didn't scar," Potter says, lips brushing Draco's nipple as he speaks. Potter shivers at the sensation. "I'm glad." Draco huffs a breathy laugh. "You should be. Unless the soulmate magic is somehow terribly wrong, you'll be looking at my chest a lot." Potter swirls his tongue around Draco's nipple, fingers closing around his hips. "Not just looking, I hope." "Well, and me neither," Draco says. Not entirely sure it makes sense, but not bothered enough to care. Draco steps back from Potter, sitting down on the bed and grinning. Potter looks flushed, his eyes hungry with want behind his foggy glasses. It makes Draco feel powerful and desirable in a way he hasn't with anyone else before. "I'm thinking," he says, pretending to ponder over something. "You're wearing way too many clothes." Potter laughs, then glances at Draco's trousers, eyes locking on the bulge in them. "I'm thinking I'm not the only one." "We should probably rectify that, don't you think?" Draco asks, feeling brave. Potter takes his glasses off and places them on his bedside table. It makes him look more naked than he would be if he took his clothes off. Draco can't remember ever seeing Potter without the glasses, and it makes his eyes look a little bigger and impossibly greener. He takes off his t-shirt next, and Draco feels a thrill rush through him at the sight of Potter's soft form. The last time Draco saw Potter was in a picture in The Prophet, when he was still in aura. He'd looked different then, muscles clearly visible beneath the thin shirt he'd worn, and something about it had just seemed wrong. Potter hadn't looked happy, or even comfortable then. Now, he looks like he belongs in his body, his actions sure and confident, and his eyes glinting with a smile even when his mouth relaxes. It's the most attractive thing Draco's ever seen. "Get over here," Draco says, pulling his feet into the bed and making room for Potter next to him. The second Potter is in bed, they're kissing again, and Draco can't help but groan at how much better it is without their shirts on. Potter pulls at Draco until he's lying on top, their legs intertwined. He feels Potter's chest move beneath him with every breath he takes, and the heat of him makes Potter feel desire burn in him like a flame. He's hard, and he resists the temptation to thrust his hips for only a moment, before deciding to be brave. "Fuck, Draco," Potter says, just when Draco hisses at the sensation of their clothed erections rubbing together. "You called me Draco," Draco says, gently running his teeth over the lobe of Potter's ear. "Yeah, I figured we might as well," Potter says. "Harry," Draco tries, letting the name find its place in his mouth. It feels a little weird. Harry laughs. I'm fairly sure I'm about to have my hand down your pants any second now. I figured I should have your name in my mouth first. Draco says. Honestly, there are so many things I'd like in my mouth right now. And yours too. But names are a good start. Fuck, Harry says. He grabs Draco and turns, so they're both on their sides, and rests a hand over Draco's trousers. Can I? Yeah, Draco says. Harry's hair already looks wild, and he reaches up to run his hand through it, rubbing gentle circles at his scalp. Harry unbuttons his trousers and pulls them down along with his pants, making Draco gasp as his erection springs free. He kicks the garments all the way off and looks apprehensively at Harry's face. Harry looks shy and hungry all at once, and Draco can't resist the temptation to kiss his stupid face. He reaches for Harry's jeans, but Harry beats him to it, pushing them down and kicking them off to the foot of the bed, next to Draco's. Fuck, Draco says. Can I... Yes, Harry says, running a hand over Draco's thigh. Yes, absolutely. I didn't even finish the question, Draco accuses, laughing at the absurdity of this. Of them, like this. I'm definitely saying yes, though, Harry says. To this, to you. Can we just... I want to feel you, Draco says, nudging Harry so he's on his back again, and climbing back on top of him, his legs between Harry's outstretched ones. Yeah, Harry says, grabbing Draco's hips and using them as leverage to thrust up. The feel of Harry's hard cock rubbing up against his sends sparks shooting through Draco's body, and the fire inside him screams for more. He thrusts down into Harry, and they both groan, Harry's fingers tightening on Draco's hips. Yes, that's... fuck, Harry says, voice breathy. Draco rests his weight on his elbows, and leans in to kiss Harry as they rub against each other. It's messy and clumsy, and everything he ever wants because it's real. It's raw and desperate, their hands clutching and both desperate for more. Harry mutters a spell, and the next thing Draco knows, his hand is between them, hot and slick with lube, as he closes his fist loosely over both their cocks. Draco thrusts his hips and groans at the slick feel of his cock moving between Harry's erection and hand. Fuck, he groans, moving his hips faster, and forcing his eyes open because the look on Harry's face is one of bliss and desperation, and Draco doesn't ever want to stop seeing it. Feels so good, Harry groans, fist tightening around them. He's thrusting as much as he can under Draco's weight, and their cocks move together with delicious friction. The fire inside Draco roars into an inferno so loud everything but him and Harry cease to exist. It's just them, and the exquisite pleasure between them. Draco loses his hold on rhythm and finesse, and jerks against Harry as they both chase their pleasure. no longer kissing, but faces close enough to share air, as they pant and gasp. Draco, Potter says, before his mouth opens and his eyes close in pleasure. Draco feels Harry's orgasm rush through him. The desperate thrust of his hips and the way his muscles tense and relax again and again under Draco's body. He feels Harry's cock twitch and spurt, and he watches in awe as Harry's face flashes from pleasure to bliss. The next thing he knows, Harry's hand is firm around his cock, jerking him off firmly, lube mixing with Harry's cum, and making a wet slapping noise as Harry pulls him off. It takes only a few strokes before Draco feels the heat and pleasure accumulate, shrinking into a fiery hot center and exploding outward, making him gasp and shiver as his orgasm rushes through him. When it's over, he collapses on top of Harry, letting himself float in the post-orgasmic bliss for a while before rolling off him. Well, and that was brilliant, he says. Yeah, Harry agrees, smiling at Draco and leaning in to kiss him. You got your one somewhere close? Draco feels around the bed for it, before he remembers he left it in his trousers. He grabs it and casts a couple cleaning charms over them, before laying back down beside Harry. He reaches out to run his fingers through Harry's hair again, and smiles when Harry trails his fingers in slow patterns across Draco's chest. So tell me about yourself, Harry says, resting his head on Draco's outstretched arm. All I know is you've got a dog, and that's a fairly new development. You also know how I take my tea, Draco offers, and the whole villain backstory bit. Harry hums, finger still moving across Draco's chest. Yeah, but I miss the redemption arc. I have a feeling that's the best bit. Draco shrugs. How do you know I had one? Harry turns just so he can be sure Draco sees and roll his eyes. Apart from the part where I can feel it, and the memory I saw of you and your mother. There was that article in the Prophet about, what was it? Revolutionary results for wizards with reformed Malfoy's muggle speech therapy. Draco snorts. There's nothing revolutionary about it. Wizards just think that if magic can't help, nothing can. But you don't, Harry says. And it's not a question. No, Draco says. Not anymore, at least. See? Harry grins. Redemption arc. I guess, Draco says. What about you, then? What did I miss? Harry flushes. My recovery arc, I guess? I did a lot of therapy, and just kind of learned how to be a person, not a tool. You'll have to tell me all about that, Draco says. Tomorrow, though. I'm already half asleep. A bark sounds from downstairs, and Harry groans. I was really hoping she'd sleep through the night. She's probably lonely, right? Draco asks. And hungry, Harry says. I'll go fix her something. Harry returns with a sheepish look 5 minutes later. And Harry isn't even a little surprised when the dog follows him into the bedroom. Harry climbs into bed, and the dog jumps in after him, settling between their feet at the foot of the bed. Somehow, I feel like this will become a thing, Draco says, gesturing down to the dog. Only if you're too soft to kick her out, Harry laughs, which I suspect you are. Shut up, Draco says. But he reaches out and intertwines their fingers to show he doesn't mean it. In fact, as he looks at the dog's wagging tail and the sleepy man next to him, he can't help but feel impossibly grateful that it might become a thing. I think this could be good, Harry says, only just getting the words out before yawning. Yes, Draco says. I think it could. Hey, it's Mika again. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. There's no ending segment this week. To be honest, I just can't be bothered to record it.